The silent planet, the galaxy, had grown quiet where Earth once was. For 50 years, the spot in space that held humanity's home world showed nothing but empty void and scattered debris. The Galactic Council had marked it as sterilized in their hay. Records, another casualty of the Great Purge that eliminated what they called Deathworld species. Commander Vex of the Helix Federation stood on the bridge of his survey ship, watching the dead space through the viewport. His blue-scaled hands worked the controls as he conducted the routine patrol of Sector 7749. The area had been declared safe for civilian traffic, but protocol demanded regular checks. "Sir, picking up some unusual readings," his navigator, Pike, called from her station. Her 4 eyes focused on the scanner display, antennae twitching with concern. "There's something moving in the debris field." Vex moved closer to examine the readings. The sensors showed small objects drifting through. The wreckage of what used to be Earth's moon. Nothing unusual there. Debris fields were common after planetary destruction. But these objects moved with purpose, not random drift. "Probably just salvage drones from the outer colonies," Vex said, though something felt wrong. The scavengers always show up eventually. 3 sectors away, Captain Reed floated in the cramped cockpit of a mining ship, his breath fogging the recycled air. He was one of the last humans, part of a scattered fleet that had been off-world when the aliens came. For 50 years, they had hidden in asteroid fields and dead systems, watching their enemies celebrate Earth's destruction. Reed's communication device crackled to life. "Ghost Leader, this is Phantom Base. The package is ready for delivery." He smiled grimly. The package was 50 years of careful preparation. While the galaxy thought humanity was extinct, the survivors had been busy. They had studied their enemies, learned their weaknesses, and built weapons designed specifically to kill the creatures that destroyed their world. Back on Vex's ship, the readings were getting stronger. Pike's voice carried new urgency as she spoke. "Commander, I'm detecting massive energy signatures. Multiple contacts closing fast on our position." "From where?" Vex demanded, moving to the tactical display. The screen showed empty space in all directions. "I don't know, sir. They just appeared, like they came out of nowhere." The view screen flickered, then displayed something impossible. Ships were materializing out of the darkness, angular, brutal-looking vessels that the galactic databases had no record of. They moved like predators, silent and deadly. On the lead ship, Reed spoke into his communicator with cold determination. "All units, this is Ghost Leader. Operation Homecoming is now active. Remember what they took from us. Remember Earth." The response came from dozens of voices across the hidden fleet. For Earth. Vex's tactical officer, a tall being with multiple arms, worked frantically at his controls. "Sir, they're not responding to any communication attempts." "They're ships. I've never seen designs like these. Are they hostile?" Vex asked, though he already knew the answer. Before anyone could respond, the lead human ship fired. The beam that struck Vex's vessel was unlike anything in galactic warfare. It tore through their shields like they weren't there and carved deep into the hull. The bridge filled with smoke and emergency alarms. All hands abandoned ship. Vex shouted as his vessel began to break apart. Reed watched through his ship's cameras as the Federation vessel died. No satisfaction, no joy, just cold purpose. The aliens had made it personal when they murdered his world. Now it was time to return the favor. "Ghost 2, begin Phase 2, he ordered. "Target the communication relay, make sure word gets out." Across the galaxy, other human cells received their orders. Mining ships became warships. Transport vessels revealed hidden weapon systems. Scientists who had spent decades studying alien biology prepared their most devastating creations. The Galactic Council had made one critical mistake. A thought destroying Earth meant destroying humanity. They never considered that humans might be the kind of species that got stronger when pushed to the edge of extinction. In the depths of space, where no one was watching, humanity had evolved. They were no longer the curious explorers who had first reached for the stars. 50 years of loss and rage had turned them into something else entirely. They had become exactly what their enemies called them, Deathworlders. As Vex's escape pod drifted toward the nearest Federation outpost, he sent out a desperate transmission. This is Commander Vex to all Federation forces. Unknown hostiles in Sector 7749. They appear to be human. The word human caused panic across the galactic communication networks. It was supposed to be impossible. The Deathworlders were extinct, but Reed and his fleet were just beginning to prove how wrong the galaxy had been. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened within hours of Vex's transmission. Representatives from 12 species gathered. In the Great Chamber on Nexus Prime, their various forms of anxiety filling the air with tension. The holographic display at the center showed the scattered remains of 3 more Federation ships, all destroyed in the same brutal manner. Council leader Thane, a massive creature with thick armor plating, struck the ceremonial gong with one of his 4 arms. The session is called to order. We face a crisis that threatens the stability of our entire civilization. Ambassador Krell of the Serpent Alliance raised his scaled head. The reports cannot be accurate. We witnessed Earth's destruction personally. The human plague was eliminated completely. Yet the evidence is clear, Thane replied, gesturing to the display. These attack patterns, these weapon signatures, they match no known technology in our databases. And the survivors all report the same thing. Ships that appear from nowhere, strike without warning, and vanish again. Dr. Myra, the Council's chief scientist, stepped forward. Her multiple tentacles worked nervously as she spoke. I've analyzed the weapon residue from the attack sites. The energy patterns are ... disturbing. They seem designed specifically to counter our defensive systems. In the shadows between star systems, Reed's fleet had grown. Word of humanity's return spread through hidden channels, reaching survivors who had given up hope. Mining colonies that had hidden their human populations suddenly revealed themselves. Research stations on the edge of known space sent coded messages of support. Captain Bell, commanding a converted cargo hauler, met with Reed in the abandoned space station they now used as headquarters. The station had belonged to a species the Council had relocated decades ago, another world deemed too dangerous to exist. The numbers are better than we hoped, Bell reported, her weathered face showing the first smile Reed had seen in years. We have 47 combat-capable vessels and nearly 200 support ships. Plus the weapons labs have finished their work, Reed nodded, studying the tactical display that showed their hidden fleet positions. What about the bioweapons? Dr. Torres says they're ready for field testing. 50 years of studying alien DNA has given us some very specific tools. Bell's expression darkened. Each weapon is tailored to target specific species. The same species that voted to destroy Earth. Back in the council chamber, panic was beginning to set in. Trade routes were being abandoned as merchant ships refused to travel without heavy escorts. Several outer colonies had gone silent, their last transmissions speaking of strange ships in the darkness. Ambassador, Krell struck his tail against the floor in frustration. We need to mobilize the full Federation fleet. Hunt down these terrorists before they can cause more damage. Terrorists? The voice came from the chamber's speakers, causing every representative to freeze in terror. The communication systems had been secured with the best technology available, yet someone had broken through effortlessly. Reed's voice filled the chamber, calm and cold. We'd prefer the term survivors. Security forces rushed into the chamber. as technicians frantically tried to trace the signal. But the transmission continued, uninterrupted. For 50 years, you celebrated our extinction, Reed continued. You built monuments to your victory over the Deathworld plague. You told your children stories about the dangerous humans who were too violent to exist. You were wrong. Thane activated his personal shield as he spoke. You cannot threaten this council. We represent 12 species across 1,000 worlds. I'm not threatening you, Reed replied. I'm informing you. Earth may be gone, but we remember what you took from us. Our families, our children, our future. And now we're going to take something from you in return. The transmission cut out, leaving the chamber in terrified silence. Within minutes, reports began flooding in from across the galaxy. Human ships were appearing everywhere, striking military targets with surgical precision. Weapons depots vanished in brilliant explosions. Communication relays went dark. Supply convoys simply disappeared. Dr. Myra tentacled through her datapad nervously. The attack pattern suggests they have detailed intelligence on our military infrastructure. They know exactly where to hit us to cause maximum disruption. How is that possible? Krell demanded. Because we've been watching you for 50 years, came another voice from the speakers. This time it was Bell. Learning your weaknesses. Planning your downfall. Did you really think wiping out our world would make us disappear? We're humans. We adapt. Thane's armor plates shifted as he prepared to speak, but Bell wasn't finished. Every species represented in this chamber voted for Earth's destruction. Every single one of you celebrated when our world burned. Now you get to experience what it feels like to be hunted to extinction. The difference is, we're going to be much more thorough than you were. The chamber erupted in chaos as representatives demanded immediate military action. But deep down, they all knew the truth that none wanted to speak aloud. The Deathworlders had returned, and this time, they were the ones with superior technology and the element of surprise. Asterisk Admiral Kane stood in the command center of the refitted battleship Phoenix, watching as his tactical team coordinated strikes across 17 star systems. The ship had once been a simple colony transport, but 50 years of hidden construction had transformed it into something the galaxy had never seen, a vessel designed by survivors who had nothing left to lose. Status report, Kane ordered, his gray hair reflecting the blue glow of the tactical displays. Strike Team Alpha has eliminated the weapons depot at Kepler Station, reported Commander Fox, her fingers dancing across the holographic interface. No survivors, no distress signals sent. Strike Team Beta is in position at the Helix fuel refineries. Kane nodded grimly. The strategy was simple but brutal. Cut off the alien coalition's ability to wage war by destroying their supply lines and military infrastructure. But more than that, they wanted to send a message. The galaxy would learn to fear humans the way humans had once feared extinction. On the bridge of his stealth cruiser, Captain West monitored the sensor readings as his ship approached the Nexus Prime system. The planet below housed the Galactic Council, but more importantly, it contained the archives that recorded every species' biological data, information that humanity desperately needed for the final phase of their plan. Cloaking Field is holding steady, his pilot, L.T. Gray, reported. No signs of detection. West studied the orbital defenses surrounding the planet. Massive space stations bristled with weapons, their shields glowing with deadly energy. Under normal circumstances, a single ship wouldn't stand a chance against such defenses. But these weren't normal circumstances, and West's ship carried weapons that the galaxy's greatest military minds couldn't have imagined. Begin the approach, West ordered. Remember, we need those archives intact. Meanwhile, the Federation's response was swift but chaotic. Fleet Admiral Zex, no relation to the dead Commander Vex, gathered what remained of the military forces at the fortress world of Titan Base. The massive space station had been built to withstand attacks from entire fleets, but even Zex wasn't sure it would be enough. "How many ships do we have?" he asked his aide, a nervous creature with compound eyes that reflected his worry. 347 vessels, sir, the aide replied, consulting his datapad. "But many are merchant ships pressed into service. Only 87 are true military vessels." Zex's mandibles clicked in frustration. "And the humans?" "Unknown, sir. They appear and disappear at will. Our best estimate is somewhere between 50 and 200 ships, but their technology makes accurate counts impossible." What the Federation didn't know was that humanity's numbers were far smaller than they feared, but their effectiveness was beyond anything the galaxy had experienced. Every human ship was crewed by survivors who had lost everything. Every weapon had been designed by people who had spent 50 years studying their enemies' weaknesses. Every tactic came from minds that had been shaped by loss and focused by revenge. Back on the Phoenix, Kane received an urgent communication from his intelligence chief, Dr. Stone. The older woman's face appeared on the main screen, her expression troubled. "Admiral, we've intercepted Federation communications. They're planning something called Operation Cleansing Fire. They intend to destroy every human colony ship and habitat in known space." Kane's expression hardened. "How many of our people are still in hiding?" "Nearly 50,000, spread across 47 locations. If the Federation finds them ... They won't," Kane interrupted. "Send the recall signal. All hidden colonies are to evacuate to the rally points immediately." "And Dr. Stone?" "Yes, sir. Activate the Prometheus protocol." Dr. Stone's face went pale. "Sir, that will mean—" "I know what it means," Kane said quietly. "But they've made their choice. If they want to finish what they started 50 years ago, then we'll show them what happens when you push Deathworlders beyond their breaking point." The Prometheus protocol was humanity's most desperate weapon, a biological agent designed to target the specific genetic markers of the 12 species that had voted for Earth's destruction. It was a weapon of extinction, the same kind of complete annihilation that had been used against humanity. Captain West's ship reached Nexus, Prime's outer defenses, just as the recall signal went out. Using weapons that manipulated matter at the molecular level, his ship carved through the station's shields like they were made of paper. The defenders never even knew they were under attack until their weapon systems simply stopped working. "Boarding. Teams, go," West ordered as his ship docked with the archive station. "We have 20 minutes before their reinforcements arrive." Across the galaxy, human strike teams executed their missions with clockwork precision. Supply depots burned. Communication networks went dark. Military bases simply vanished in brilliant flashes of light. And in the hidden laboratories, scattered throughout the outer rim, the final batches of the Prometheus virus were being prepared for deployment. The galaxy had wanted to see humanity extinct. Soon, they would discover that extinction could work. Both ways. The first signs appeared on Helix Prime 3 days after the archive raid. Citizens began falling ill with a mysterious disease that their best doctors couldn't identify. The symptoms were unlike anything in their medical databases. A rapid breakdown of cellular structure that seemed to target their species. Unique biology. Dr. Mira stood in the emergency medical center, her tentacles trembling as she examined the test results. The pathogen was unlike anything she had ever encountered. It was precise, targeting only Helix DNA while leaving other species completely unaffected. This wasn't a natural disease. It was a weapon. "How many cases?" she asked her assistant, Dr. Vale. 3,000 confirmed, spreading rapidly through the major population centers, Vale replied, his voice strained. "The mortality rate is ... complete. No survivors once symptoms appear." Across the galaxy, Similar reports flooded in from the other Council worlds. The Serpent Alliance's homeworld reported mass casualties among the reptilian population. Crystal Collective's silicon-based life forms were dissolving into base elements. Every species that had voted for Earth's destruction was experiencing the same targeted plague. On the Phoenix, Admiral King watched the reports with cold satisfaction. The Prometheus Protocol was working exactly as designed. 50 years of studying. Alien biology had given humanity weapons that turned their enemies' own genetic codes against them. "Sir," Commander Fox reported, "we're receiving surrender requests from 6 different species. They're offering to negotiate." Kane's expression didn't change. "Reply with the terms we discussed. Complete withdrawal from all disputed territories. Reparations for Earth's destruction. And war crimes tribunals for every leader who voted for the genocide. And if they refuse? Then they join their ancestors." But even as humanity's revenge unfolded, the Federation wasn't sitting idle. Fleet Admiral Zex had gathered the largest military force in galactic history at Titan Base. Nearly 800 ships from dozens of species, all united by the threat of human extinction weapons. "We have located several human staging areas," Zex announced to his assembled commanders. "Long-range sensors have detected their hidden bases in the void sectors. We will strike all targets simultaneously." General Locke, representing the warrior clans, raised his massive fist. "My ships are ready. We will show these Deathworlders what happens when they threaten the civilized galaxy." What they didn't know was that humanity had been expecting this response. Captain Reed, now commanding the stealth destroyer Vengeance, monitored the Federation fleet movements from the edge of the system. The aliens were walking into a trap 50 years in the making. "All Ghost units, this is Ghost Leader. Read. Transmitted on the encrypted channel. The fish are swimming toward the net. Prepare for Operation Funeral Pyre." The human fleet was smaller than the Federation force, but every ship had been designed for one purpose: to kill aliens as efficiently as possible. They carried weapons that could tear apart enemy vessels at the molecular level, shields that could phase through conventional attacks, and most importantly, the determination of a species that had nothing left to lose as the Federation fleet approached the first human base. They found it apparently defenseless. The small outpost seemed to be frantically trying to evacuate, its few ships fleeing in panic. Admiral Zex smiled with satisfaction as his forces moved in for the kill. "All units, commence bombardment," he ordered. The Federation ships opened. Fire, their weapons lighting up the darkness of space. The human base exploded in a brilliant flash, seemingly confirming their victory. But the celebration was short-lived. The explosion wasn't destruction, it was activation. The base had been a massive bomb, filled with antimatter and designed to look like a civilian target. The blast tore through the leading Federation ships, vaporizing dozens of vessels in seconds. "Ambush!" Zex shouted as his tactical displays lit up with new contacts. Human ships were materializing all around them, their cloaking fields dropping as they opened fire. Reed's ship struck first, its main weapon punching through the Federation flagship's shields and hull like they were made of tissue paper. Around him, other human vessels carved through the alien fleet with surgical precision. For Earth came the battle cry across the human communication channels. The Federation had superior numbers, but they were fighting an enemy that had spent 50 years preparing for this exact moment. Every human weapon was designed to exploit specific weaknesses in alien technology. Every tactic was honed by decades of studying enemy patterns. Captain Bell, commanding the heavy cruiser Retribution, watched her targeting computer lock onto a cluster of Serpent Alliance ships. Her crew had lost families to these same aliens during Earth's destruction. Now it was time to return the favor. "Fire all batteries," she ordered. The alien ships died in silence, their hulls cracking apart as human weapons overwhelmed their defenses. But even as the Federation fleet was being systematically destroyed, reports continued to pour in from across the galaxy. The Prometheus virus was spreading faster than anyone had anticipated. Entire worlds were going silent. 6 months after the first human ships had appeared from the darkness, the galaxy was fundamentally changed. The great civilizations that had once ruled over thousands of worlds were reduced to scattered survivors hiding in remote systems. The Galactic Council chambers on Nexus Prime stood empty, its representatives either dead from the Prometheus virus or fled to parts unknown. Admiral Kane stood on the observation deck of the Phoenix as it orbited what had once been the Federation's capital world. The planet below was still habitable, but its cities were empty monuments to a civilization that had chosen extinction over coexistence. "Final casualty report, sir," Commander Fox announced, her voice carrying the weight of the numbers she was about to deliver. Estimated losses among the target species range from 70 to 90%. Several smaller civilizations appear to be completely extinct. Kane nodded slowly. The revenge was complete, but the cost had been higher than even he had anticipated. The Prometheus protocol had been designed to target specific genetic markers, but biological weapons were never as precise as their creators hoped. Some species had been wiped out entirely, while others had suffered catastrophic population collapse. "Kandar losses?" Kane asked. "Minimal, sir. We lost 18 ships in the final battle at Titan Base, and approximately 300 personnel, total across all operations. The hidden colonies are all secure." The numbers were staggering in their disproportion. Humanity, reduced to less than 1 million survivors scattered across dozens of ships and hidden bases, had effectively destroyed galactic civilization. But as Kane looked out at the empty planet below, he wondered if victory was the right word. For what they had accomplished. Captain Reed's voice crackled over the communication system. "Admiral, we're receiving transmissions from the surviving neutral worlds. They're requesting permission to establish diplomatic contact." Kane turned from the viewport. The neutral worlds, species that had either abstained from the vote to destroy Earth or hadn't been part of the Galactic Council at all, represented the future of galactic civilization. If there was to be one, what are they offering? Kane asked. "Complete recognition of human territorial claims, reparations for Earth's destruction, and formal guarantees that such actions will never be taken again. They're also offering to help rebuild human population centers." It was everything humanity could have asked for, and more than they had dared hope for when they first began their campaign of revenge. But Kane found himself thinking about the billions of innocent beings who had died because their leaders made the wrong choice 50 years ago. Dr. Stone appeared on the communication screen from her laboratory ship. "Admiral, I have the final analysis of the Prometheus dispersal patterns. The virus has run its course. No further spread is expected, and it's already beginning to break down in most environments." "Casualties?" Kane asked, though he already knew the answer would be devastating. Approximately 4 billion beings across the 12 target species. The Helix Federation is functionally extinct. The Serpent Alliance has perhaps 10,000 survivors. The Crystal Collective, Stone, paused. "We may have wiped them out completely." Kane closed his eyes. 4 billion lives. The number was almost impossible to comprehend. Earth's population at the time of its destruction had been 8 billion, but somehow taking half that number in revenge didn't feel like justice. It felt like becoming the very thing they had fought against. "Sir?" Commander Fox prompted gently. Kane opened his eyes and straightened his shoulders. The decisions had been made, the prices paid. Now humanity had to live with the consequences and decide what kind of species they wanted to be going forward. "Open a channel to all surviving human vessels," Kane ordered. It's time to address our people. The communication went out across the scattered human fleet, reaching mining ships in asteroid fields, research stations on the galaxy's edge, and the hidden colonies that had spent 50 years in darkness. Fellow humans, Kane began, his voice carrying across dozens of star systems. Today, we have avenged Earth. The species that voted for our extinction have paid the price for their choice. But revenge, while satisfying, does not bring back our world or our dead. He paused, looking out at the empty cities below. We have a choice to make. We can remain the galaxy's executioners, feared and hated by all who encounter us. Or we can choose to rebuild not just human civilization, but galactic civilization itself. We can choose to be better than those who destroyed our world. The response from the fleet was mixed. Some voices called for continued warfare against any species that might threaten humanity. Others spoke of the need to find new worlds and rebuild their population. But gradually, a consensus emerged. Humanity would rebuild, but on their terms. The galaxy had learned what happened when you pushed Deathworlders to extinction. Now it would learn what happened when you gave them a reason to build instead of destroy. The age of human revenge was over. The age of human dominance had begun. Asterisk